We're rolling into week 11. We're looking at the waiver wire. It's a little bit different this week. Not great at the running back position. We're still looking at a lot of stashes and handcuffs, but we got a new handcuff that has entered the chat. It's Cam Akers, and we almost had to pick him up this week, but it looks like Aaron Jones is probably going to be back. But Cam Akers, we got to deep dive his profile today to see whether or not you need him for your fantasy football team. This guy over here might need him. You may not. We're going to have to go over the advanced analytics, the situation, see whether or not you want him for your fantasy football team. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're doing deep dives with the Unique series on as many players as possible throughout the week. That means if you're interested in a player that's all of a sudden trendy, that's climbing the waiver wire, the depth chart, or anything, it's going to be here. On top of that, we're going deep on the waiver wire, and we're using these videos to help you set your lineups. Click that button right now. Stop missing out. Ric Flair's watching. You do not want to disappoint Ric Flair. However, Cam Akers returned to the Vikings after being traded from the Texans not too long ago. It means they wanted him back. They needed something behind Aaron Jones. They needed something in this offense. He looked good this offseason. He was okay during the season. We'll go into that later. But Aaron Jones, I did the video on this when it happened because I wanted to go over it. Had a rib issue in this game. Got hit there. Came out for a bit. Came off the carts. Came back later in the game. Looks like he's going to be okay. I'll say it like that just in case, because sometimes when that happens, players can still be out for the next game or so. Looks like he's going to be okay. However, I would not be surprised if he's going to be limited at practice for a bit, because I wouldn't be rolling him out there. I'll be getting him ready. Cam Akers, though, was in this matchup and saw 13 carries. He's the next guy up. He was the guy getting to work right after he was out. We were seeing this trend up from week 9. This is an explosive offense that uses their running back. He has a history in this offense. He's a player that's very explosive. He's a player that has been in the National Football League for a bit, so he's a veteran to the game. He understands concepts. That being said, this is a running back that you may want to look at as a stash. But is this the right stash for you? Because looking at what he's done this season, we've seen a taste of him with the ball in his hands as the main running back with the Texans. Some people, when they look at 9.9 PPR fantasy points, 12.7 on the top end, and those low points, they ain't going to like that too much. But some of you guys, when you're really hurting to set a lineup, when you're really jonesing for a running back, and you're just wanting somebody, you'll take that. You'll take that for the potential to get that 12.7 or more, that potential of scoring a touchdown or catching a few balls and maybe scooting away. You'll take that. Some people look at that, oh, he's a bust. And some people look at that as like, I'll take that. I'm hurting that bad. I'll take that. Thank you. I'll take Cam Akers, and hopefully he has that good game, because you're looking at the touches. If you need the touches, then you're going to go after the touches. Thing here with the Vikings, another good offense. They use their running backs. He's been in this offense before, and we got Justin Jefferson and company. The ball's flowing. Cam Akers is in another good situation to be productive, and he's a Cinderella story coming back from that injury, and the fact that he's in the National Football League in general and even got traded, that he held that much value, is a sign that, hey, he's back. He's back, and we should be rooting for him to excel. And just looking at his yards per carry during these games, 4.6 in week 2, 4.1 in week 4, 4.7 in week 5, 7.7 in week 9, 2.9 against Jacksonville. However, when you look at that run with the Texans, a lot of people have a sour taste in their mouth. For a third-string running back coming back from an injury like that, and to be able to do that, I consider that pretty good. And we're only going to ramp up from there as we get further away from the injury. I'm not going to say he's going to be a top-tier running back or anything, but a functional player with volume for fantasy that can volume his way into production is in the cards for him. Aaron Jones could be limited in practice. Do not get scared from the practice reports. Obviously, he's a veteran. He's been in the league. You don't have to redline him in practice after something like that. So there's still a good chance. There's a good chance he's back out there. Still a very good chance. I'm not too worried about Aaron Jones. This isn't that type of video, but something to pay attention to. Like I said about Cam Akers' injuries, that is a nasty list. That's a nasty list. That's why we're rooting for him. That doesn't mean you got to pick him up on fantasy or anything like that, but that's why we're rooting for him. I always root for these types of deals. Players come back from injuries, late round picks, guys from small schools, all that stuff. I root for those types of players. Rooting for Cam Akers to really carve out something down the line. I don't want anything to happen to Aaron Jones, but coming back from 2 Achilles tears, all these injuries, very interesting note that he's on the field. But when we come out of college, 4.47 40-yard dash, we got some burst. Obviously different right now off the injuries, but we still got the pop on the field. We got some pop on the field, more than some other running backs. We've always been talented in those regards, always been explosive. We still got the pop in the step. We still have something there to ignite. And when we look at this rushing attack, it's Aaron Jones. It is Aaron Jones. But when you look at Aaron Jones, though, we're a veteran running back. We've been in the game for a bit. We've recently had an injury history these last couple years. That doesn't mean anything, but it does mean that it could pop back up, especially hamstring strains, because that's the hamstring. That's just what happens. That's just the human body. That's anatomy, but it doesn't mean it will. Doesn't mean it will. But it's just part of the game, and running backs go down. And the thing about the running back position is not many of them have gotten hurt this year, and usually, on average, a few of them do. A few of them do to some degree, missing a few games, out for the year. We might catch an Armageddon right before the fantasy playoffs. So my best fantasy take with Cam Akers is if I have Aaron Jones, maybe I want him stashed as my handcuff just in case. And if I don't need him, I don't need him, but I'm okay. I got the insurance policy. That's probably my best take with Cam Akers. I think he's just a stash at this point, but maybe he's not your stash. There's a lot of good stashes right now, and the reason why we got a lot of good stashes right now is because we don't have a lot of injuries to go off of, just taking our stashes away. So we got a lot of stashes. We're waiting on them. A lot of them are rostered. On top of that, you need to get your stashes ready for the fantasy playoffs, and he's a good handcuff to Aaron Jones. On top of that, if you got room to make, maybe an extra stash at running back is something you may want to look at, just in case we get a running back Armageddon. I'm not predicting that. That may happen next year or something, or revert back to the mean and start getting injuries at normal clip. That ain't normal right now. It ain't normal. I'm not saying that's a good thing, bad thing, or whatever. I'm just calling out the data right now. It's not usual. So things have to reverse back to average eventually. Things have to do that eventually. And maybe that's this week, next year, 2026. But things have to go back to average eventually, and some running backs have to miss some time. That's something to look at. And I'm not talking about Cam Akers with this. I'm talking overall fantasy strategy. Just get your cards in a row. Get yourself ready for the fantasy playoffs. Get that back end of your depth chart ready for the fantasy playoffs. Get the chairs reorganized on the deck of your cruise ship. Get it ready, because you do not want your starting running back to go down and it be naked. Because if I'm out of the running for the fantasy playoffs and I'm sitting there in the league and I'm active, you know what I'm doing? I'm hoarding the stash running backs right now. So you can't do that. I am going to do that if I'm out of the running in the league and I'm still active. That is what active managers do. Guys who are assholes in your league want to do, and it's fine for them to do that, because you should be moving around the chairs on the Titanic just in case you hit that iceberg. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One thing for watching. Catch you on the next video.